Hello, Jivan. Welcome back to the virtual classroom. This will be the third lecture related with your chapter first, and it will be the continuation of your first chapter. So we'll start with the slides.
Hello TYBSC, welcome back to the virtual classroom. Again we are starting with the parasitology second chapter, first chapter, second subtopic. So in previous lecture we have already discussed about the scope of the parasitology. Now in this lecture we will talk about parasitology and the main components of parasitology, that is parasites and host. We will also see the different classification of parasites. So parasitology, again we have already talked about this, but in this particular lecture we will see different definitions and you will select the definition which you are comfortable with. So parasitology is the science that studies the relatively large parasites including parasitic protist, worm, and to the lesser degree pathogenic fungi and arthropod ectoparasites. Then another definition is there, that is a parasitology is a science that deals with parasites. And the third one, parasitology is the study of parasites, their host, and the relationship between them. Now out of these three definitions, the first one is more elaborative definition, second one is very short definition, and the third one is covering a very important aspect, that is the relationship between the host and parasite. So in my opinion, if you want to use the definition, the first one and the third one will be more appropriate. I will share the books with you in which the definitions will be given, but you can use this definition also for uh, for understanding purpose. Now we will start with the parasites. Now what are parasites? Parasites that either live internal or external to the infected host. On the host, that is, on means external and in means internal. Okay, so either it will be endoparasite or ectoparasite. So the definition for a parasite is things that live internal, that is endoparasite, or external, that is ectoparasite, to the infected or infested host. Another one is any reciprocal association in which species depend upon another for its existence. The host is always harmed in this. Now reciprocal, when we say reciprocal association means definitely the parasite will get something from the host and host will get some effect. Most of the time in parasites, if we are talking about the parasite, then host will always get a harmful effect. There is another definition, a living organism that acquires some of the basic nutritional requirement through its intimate contact with another living organism. Okay, so another one, parasite is a living organism which takes its nourishment and other needs from the host, and host is an organism which supports the parasites. So these are some of the definitions of the parasite. Now I go further, there are several more, but always remember the definition should cover the main characteristic of a parasite. So parasite is an organism living temporarily or permanently in or on another organism from which is physically or physiologically dependent upon others. Now a parasite can be a living organism that acquires some of the basic nutritional requirement through its intimate contact with another living organism. Intimate means that it should be in contact with the host or another organism. So either it will be present on the host, that we have already seen, ectoparasite, or inside the host, that is endoparasite. Intimate contact is important. If there is a distance between two parasite and the host, it will not be intimate contact and definitely it will not get the nourishment that it requires. So parasites may be a simple unicellular protozoans or complex multicellular metazoans. So at the end, parasitism, one organism live at the expense of other, the latter usually suffers from the association. So these are several definitions of the parasite. Go through it, at least try to understand or the 2 or 3 definitions that you should know. Okay, all covers the important aspects about the parasite. Now a very important part about the parasite, that is, what are the features of the parasite? Now, features means what thing decide that yes, this is a parasite. So features are smaller than the host. We will discuss this part in detail. First thing, parasite should be smaller than the host, outnumber the host. Outnumber means their number should increase. It should have a short lifespan, and then their host short lifespan, then their host, and have a great reproductive potential than their host. Parasites are non-producers, they feed off their host. Now one by one we will see, and we will see one example also. Most of the parasites, whatever examples we see, their size is smaller than the host. Reason is, as we have seen the definitions, parasite should be present on the surface or inside the surface. If should be present on the surface, naturally, if it is very large in size, the host will come to know about it and host will try to kill it or remove it. If it is very large in size and present inside the body, the instantly host will die, or otherwise host will come to know about it and they will try to remove it. So definitely these parasites, they want to be in association with host, but on some terms that we already know, that they don't want to know that a host knows about them. Second number, their number will be much more larger. As they are very small, they are vulnerable, their death rate can increase. That's why in nature, those who are having or which lives in a very harsh environment, nature always give them a chance that they should increase their number, because if they are producing in larger number, out of, for example, if they are producing in 100 in numbers, then survival rate, not necessary all 100 will survive, there is a possibility that only 20 will survive. Okay, so this is a kind of adaptation they have done. But for a larger reproduction, there is one more thing, their lifespan should be shorter as compared to host. It is not necessary that if, for example, humans, our average life is 60 to 80 years, not 100 years now. So if it is 60 to 80 years, then within that span, not necessary all the parasites will remain in our body. So their lifespan is always short. Now I'll give they should have great reproductive potential, and they are naturally non-producers. Why they are parasites? The reason only is this, that they feed on host. They cannot produce anything, they cannot acquire anything, they can directly feed on the host. That's why they are parasites. Now biggest example of all these features will be included in one parasite, that is the malaria causing parasite, Plasmodium species. So there is one example, as you can see here. As you can see this example, in this you can see the falciparum rings in many of the RBCs. Now if we talk about the malaria itself, there are initial stage of malaria, that is pre-erythrocytic stage. They enters into the liver first, and once they enter into the liver, after that they burst open the cells. Now just think about it, how many cells? If 10 cells are infecting the liver, then from the liver cells hundreds of cells are coming out. So the first character feature that is covering is number, their number is more, okay, as compared to the host. Now once they come out, they start infecting the, or erythrocytic stage start, in that they infect the RBCs, and infect means they will enter the RBC, they will start eating, that we call it as a feeding on the host. They start eating hemoglobin and then they change. This is one of the stage that has been shown in the diagram, that they change and then they come out of the RBC and start infecting other RBC. Now here we come to know, if we compare their lifespan within 15 to 20 days, whole of the infection occurs throughout the body. The person will get the fever and shivering and anemic it become if more and more RBCs are destroyed. So all these characters are included in this one example, that is of the malaria. Their number is more, they start infecting more cells, and from one cell of the host more number come out and they start infecting more and more cells. So they are covering the point, that is the lifespan is short, they outnumber the host, their number is tremendously increasing, they are smaller than the host. We can't see it by the naked eyes, and they feed on the host. So these are very important features of parasite, very important part. Now we will talk about the classification of parasite. First, in short, what are the classification, then we will see classification based upon different aspects. Now in general, different kind of parasites are there. So ectoparasite we have already talked about, whatever organism that live on outer surface of the host, we call it as ectoparasite. Examples: lice, ticks and mites, that you know. Then you have endoparasite which lives inside the body, Giardia, Lamblia, this already I have talked about in last lecture. Then obligate parasite. Now this parasite is completely dependent on the host during the segment of all of its life cycle, most of the time feeding and number is increasing. This we can see in Plasmodium species. Plasmodium species is also endoparasite, but in endoparasites there is a possibility that they may have life cycle present not just on one host but in different hosts. We will see the types of host also, but here another host possibility is there in endoparasite. Obligate, basically it depends upon the single host, and whole of the lifespan will be covered in that. Other than that, there are facultative parasites which exhibit both parasitic and non-parasitic mode. Means it depend on what happens with it, it will change itself. Okay, so there are several examples. As you can see, the Naegleria, it's a amoeba, single celled living organism, commonly found in warm and fresh water. For example, lakes, river and hot springs and soil. Okay, and only one species of this, that is the Naegleria fowleri, it only infects. Now fresh water, or you can say warm water, it requires warm water up to 46 degrees Celsius or 50 degrees Celsius it survives. It grows in that warm water, such as lakes and rivers. For example, geothermal, naturally hot springs are there. If you can, there are many in our India itself. In Maharashtra you have Aravali hot water springs, then you have Rishikund, Uttarakhand, there also hot water springs are there. Manikaran, Himachal Pradesh, people can actually take bath in that. But remember, hot water doesn't mean that it should be boiling, or it should not go or it should not exceed 50 degrees Celsius, otherwise this organism doesn't survive. But whether these organisms are present in such water, so it is very dangerous? No, not like that. If it is a flowing water, basically most of the natural waters are flowing waters, so they don't survive in that. But yes, if it is not that much flowing, it is coming from at the bottom of the lake, then there is a possibility of growth of it. Then that's why all species which is responsible for this disease are not responsible for increasing the infection. So what it does, Then another part, that is natural water bodies we have seen. Other than that, industrial bodies discharge, that can be a warm one, there you can get these parasites. Then swimming pools with some water heaters in that, and also if these swimming pools are not properly chlorinated, then there is a possibility of what we say, these organisms. Okay. And this is a facultative one, it's not a natural one, but if it do this, then there is a problem. Okay. And sometimes, or most of the time, these parasite, this particular one, they may attack the brain cells, so it enters into the body, go towards the brain and start eating the brain. So Naegleria fowleri, only one species that happens, but it is a very rare disease that can happen. Then accidental parasites are there, when parasite attack an unnatural host and survive. Okay. For example, Hymenolapis. Okay. Now what happens with the Hymenolapis, humans, especially children, can ingest the arthropods. See, छोटे बच्चों को थोड़ा सा कभी कभी होता है, वो कुछ भी देख के खा लेते हैं, कीड़े खाते हैं छोटे बच्चे. So if there are some eggs present in that arthropod, then it may get transferred into the intestine of that small child. So it can digest, small children can digest arthropods as well as, so become infected due to this mechanism. And rodents, especially rats, are definitive host. So what are the main hosts? Actually rats are definitive host, or natural host for natural reservoirs for this particular parasite. So natural reservoir is rat, but accidentally if it is taken up by children or any humans, some humans also eat insects, so they may get this particular infection. Then erratic parasites are there. For example, Entamoeba histolytica, means it wanders through the organ. Basically Entamoeba histolytica should be present in your intestine, but maybe if it is present in your blood, it will wander and you may find it in liver also, or sometimes in the lungs of the humans also. So erratic parasite. Now we will see the main classification of the parasite. So ectoparasite and endoparasite, that we have already seen and seen the examples also. Now according to their dependence on the host. Okay. So you have permanent parasites or temporary parasites. So permanent parasites depends completely upon its host for metabolite, shelter and transportation. Parasites cannot live outside the host. This is very important. Plasmodium species, for example. Then facultative, capable of independent existence in the addition of parasitic life. So this is one example. Other than that, again further classification based upon the pathogenicity also. Now if you look at the pathogenicity, it causes disease in the host, example Entamoeba histolytica, and non-pathogenic, that we call it as a commensal parasite. Now what is commensal? This we will this is the association between two organisms. So we will talk about the definition of commensal in next lecture in detail. So the parasite derive food and protection from the host without causing harm to the host, remember. So Entamoeba coli, so don't get confused with the Escherichia coli. There is one bacteria that is called as Escherichia coli, which is present in our colon region of human intestine. Entamoeba coli also present there, but it doesn't harm, it will remain within our body, it doesn't harm the host. Okay, so this is a non-pathogenic one, but it is a parasite basically because it is deriving food and protection from the host. Then you have opportunistic parasites which cause mild disease in immunologically healthy individual, but they may cause several or very severe disease in immunodeficient host. So examples are there. Toxoplasma gondii, I think I have already talked about this Toxoplasma gondii in previous lecture. So they generally don't harm, or their effect is not that much, but if immunity is down at that time, they will be very harsh on the host. Again, I want to include one more thing, that pathogenic parasite, for example Entamoeba histolytica. Now look at the diagram here of Entamoeba histolytica. I have specially shown this Entamoeba coli and histolytica. There is a morphological differences between these two, so that you should not get confused about it. And Entamoeba histolytica can damage the intestine. As you can see, this intestinal layer has been damaged, and this infection or everything is coming out of it. This damage is because of the Entamoeba histolytica. Then you have the types of host. Very important. The definitive host, as I have told, depending on the parasitic species, is either host which harbors the adult stage of the parasite and most highly developed form of the parasite occurs, or there is another thing when we call it as a definitive host, if the parasite sexually mature stages of the parasite and fertilization takes place within it. So Taenia saginata, okay, this is a definitive host. Just now we have talked about the rat tapeworm. So rat is the definitive host, so it's a natural host. Then you have intermediate host. So what is intermediate host? Again, one more example I want to give of the definitive host. When this Taenia saginata mature or most highly developed form is not obviously definitive host. So mammalian host is most of the times the definitive host. Now intermediate host is a host harboring sexually immature or larval stage of the parasite and in which no fertilization takes place. Okay, so cow is the intermediate host for the Taenia saginata, whereas man is the definitive host for the Taenia saginata. Within this intermediate host, there is one more type, amplifier host. We call it as an intermediate, but what they do, this intermediate host in which parasite undergo several changes or magnification, amplify, their number increases. They don't harm, but they increase the number and go outside of it. Okay, so here I think the words are going outside the slide. But you understand, amplifier host means intermediate host in which parasite undergo amplification or they increase their number. Okay, this is what is important. And then you have reservoir host, a wild or domestic animal which harbors a parasite and acts as a source of infection to humans. Reservoir. Okay, carrier host, it just carry it, but don't show any kind of clinical signs, it just carry the parasite. Then you have accidental host, means infection of host other than normal host species. A parasite may or may not continue full development in this host, accidentally they enters. Okay, that we call it as a accidental parasite. Then you will have what are the different type of effects of parasite on the host. Now I will stop here the lecture. In next lecture we will start with the effect of parasite on the host, and then we will see other associations, that is commensalism or mutualism, or you can say that what are the vectors. Okay, so all these things will be included in our next lecture. I'll suggest you to go through all these definitions, try to remember the definition, try to understand the definition, and see, I have given you several definitions, so whatever definition which is simple for understanding, that you can remember, that you can go for. Okay, so we'll stop here. Thank you.